Hi, I'm Dana S. Diaz, and I've been unmuted by Papamutes. But then they use this manipulation so that whatever, abusing you and breaking you down almost gives them a sense of importance and a sense of power that helps them to feel better about themselves. But they all have in common that there's an insecurity and they cannot be flawed. They cannot have people think that they're, you know, flawed in any way or have any weaknesses. But, that's a very basic concept. It's very, very complex, though, when you're in the situation.
Welcome to Papamutes, everybody. Today, my guest is Dana S. Diaz. Dana is the author of Gasping for Air, the Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse. Dana, welcome to Papamutes.
Thank you so much.
Now, you're coming to us from Illinois, is that correct?
Yes, I'm about an hour and a half or so outside of Chicago. So,
Okay, I was going to say,
in a
as a
rural
reference point.
area. Yeah, as a reference point, people tend to know where Chicago is. Can't miss Lake Michigan. So,
Exactly. So, your book, Gasping for Air, great title.
thank you.
Um, I've researched it, but for people listening, what is narcissistic abuse?
Okay, so that's a very loaded question because there are so many different types of narcissists and there are so many different types of abuse. But essentially, narcissistic abuse happens when somebody uses verbal, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual, sometimes physical abuse to control and manipulate another person. And basically, from what I have gathered, I unfortunately was raised by a narcissist and then I ended up marrying one. So I have 40 some years of experience with this. Uh, so most people think of a narcissist, they think of what's called an overt narcissist, which is somebody who's really into themselves and thinks, they have this very inflated idea of themselves and they think they're that important and they're entitled and everybody should bow to them. That's the type of narcissist I was raised by. But then I married a covert narcissist, which is somebody that seems more humble and almost more pitiful. I call it the Eeyore complex. It's like Eeyore, the character from Winnie the Pooh, where poor me, nothing good ever happened, and you almost feel bad for them. But then they use this manipulation so that whatever, abusing you and breaking you down almost gives them a sense of importance and a sense of power that helps them to feel better about themselves. But they all have in common that there's an insecurity and they cannot be flawed. They cannot have people think that they're, you know, flawed in any way or have any weaknesses. But, that's a very basic concept. It's very, very complex, though, when you're in the situation.
Now, how does one identify it? Now that you know what you know, how do you identify it?
On my website, I have, a so-called quiz that I developed of different questions, but I think innately, no matter whether it's a narcissist or not, because some people can have narcissistic qualities and not be an actual malignant narcissist. They're not trying to hurt anybody. But I think generally I tell people if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't sound right, go with that feeling. I mean, if you're afraid of somebody, if you're afraid of speaking, your opinion because of the consequence, if you don't want to go home to this person, if you know that challenging this person's political or social opinion of something is going to come back on you. For me, I was always punished with the silent treatment. I mean, weeks. My own mother even participated with her husband. They'd go sometimes days and sometimes up to 3 or 4 weeks. My ex-husband did the same thing of completely ignoring me. Nothing makes a person feel so insignificant and non-existent. It's awful to do that to somebody. But the key thing is, they call them red flags. If
Hmm.
somebody is so unreasonably angry about something, if somebody cannot be happy for you in your times of joy and achievement, if somebody's always trying to break you down, degrade you, humiliate you, embarrass you, those are not good qualities. Nobody wants to be with somebody like that. So I just tell people, anything that doesn't feel right, I mean, you don't want to be overly sensitive to that, because we all have bad days, we all wake up on the wrong side of the bed. But if it's something that's a consistent pattern over time, it's probably a sign that this person has a need to be the primary object in your life, the primary. They need this importance, they need to be revered in some way, and they're never going to care for you in the way that you would want.
Now, how far into your marriage did you realize this? I mean, you see, you were married for how long? 25 years?
We were, well, just under 20 years. The
Oh, sorry.
relationship was 25 years. No, that's okay. I mean, here's the sad thing, and I cover this in my book, which is, why I've had a lot of people question, why did you stay? Why did you even marry him? Um, it was only a few weeks into the dating, the courting period still, that I saw the red flags, and it was
Really?
very unnerving, because I had come out. I mean, I was only, what, 19 years old. I had just come out of my parents' home, that, I couldn't wait. I was planning my whole childhood to get out of there at 18, because I needed to get away from that narcissist. So it was ironic that I fell for the charm. And like I said, my ex-husband was the covert narcissist. So there was this humility, and he was so generous with other people, and he would drop anything for anyone, anytime. So when these outbursts of anger and, lashing out at me for things that had nothing to do with me, but for which he was blaming for, I was trying to be positive and thinking, oh, well, he just feels so comfortable with me that, he's just taking things out on me. Regular life happens. We get stressed out. And we tend to take things out on the people that we know aren't going to abandon us, the people that love us unconditionally. I mean, I don't know that I could say I loved him unconditionally after only a few weeks, but I think, like my mother, I was making excuses for the person I was with. It was a bad day. He's under a lot of stress, whatever it was. But the red flags were there, and they kept coming back. But the big question people always ask, and ask of all victims of abuse, well, if it was that bad, why did you stay so long? Narcissists are funny. If he was just a plain old jerk, obviously it wouldn't have gone into moving in together and marriage. But with narcissists, they do this thing called love bombing. They get to know you really fast. They're actually really smart. So they know, after, even lashing out and being unreasonable and making you feel like a worthless piece of crap, at the end of the day, it's, the caresses on the cheek. I love you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. I'll never do that again. And so you get these glimpses of hope. And then maybe for your birthday or Christmas, there's lavish gifts, and you get the red roses on Valentine's Day, and you get these glimpses of hope that, oh, but they do love me. Everything is okay. He just has a lot of bad days, or he needs to learn to deal with his anger. With my ex-husband, there was a family joke in his family that, oh, the men just get angry. They just have anger issues. But this was well beyond anger issues, because it was constant attacks on me, verbally, psychologically, emotionally. And unfortunately, towards the end, I got very, very physically ill. And we found out from Mayo Clinic, actually, after being tested for a million things, that I was autoimmune, and I developed a lung disease that was a result of cortisol, the stress hormone, going through my body at alarmingly high rates for such a long period of time. It actually, my body started to, my white blood cells depleted. It was just attacking itself. And I have heart issues, neurological issues, muscular issues. It's pretty sad that just treating somebody that poorly can actually physically affect you in that way.
Can this happen to men?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've certainly, through book signings and social media and such, I've met a lot of people, and I'm always interested in hearing other people's stories because they're all different, but they all have the same, type of, it's almost like we always joke that narcissists, it's almost like they have software downloaded into their brains because they all say the same things, they do the same things. But I have had several men, and I'm not, honestly, it's not even young men. I've had men in their 60s and their 50s and their 40s usually coming to me, some with tears and
Wow.
saying that they had, the same experiences with women, and it's terrible. And I think at their age and that generation, a lot of it also is the financial abuse, which I certainly experienced, to a great extent, but that's where they were mostly taken advantage of as well.
So obviously it's a form of control. Um,
Yes.
and I mean, is it just is it on purpose or is it just that person? You know what I mean? Like you could be abusive, like yeah, I want to do it, or is it just they don't even know they're doing it? They're just that way, or is it more complicated?
So, well, I think it's twofold. I think everything's complicated when it comes to our psyche, but
Right.
absolutely it's on purpose. Absolutely, the thing with narcissists is they usually have a target, or what is called a supply, the
Hmm.
one person that they do this to, because the rest of the world thinks they're charming and they're funny, and they just think they're these great people. And that's what they want, though. Narcissists purposely put on, like I used to call my ex, and in the book I refer to him as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I never knew what I was going to get, but if we were around his family, oh, absolutely, he had his arm around me and smiling and telling me, complimenting me and nice things. And we'd get in the car and I'd be in tears in 30 seconds because he'd be tearing me apart. A lot of it too is these rules, or it's what I call rules. You learn them over time by what, by the, you do something they don't approve of and you get punished. Like for me, it was with the silent treatment or comments. If I went to the dollar store for some cat food after work and I was gone longer than he thought, well, who were you screwing at the dollar store? Why were
Really?
you gone so long? Where'd you go? There was a long line. I had to drive there. I had to get the cat food, wait in the line. Like, if I was going to church on Sunday morning, like I did every Sunday morning, I was screwing the priest, or I must be meeting somebody there. Where was I after church? Because God forbid I stopped and talked to an elderly parishioner, for 10 minutes after mass. Well, you should have been home. They keep this control and they don't want you out in the world. They isolate you. They don't like any of your family. They don't like any of your friends. So the next thing you know, just to avoid fight, you're not going out with your friends. You're not even talking to them. You don't go to your family holidays. You don't go to birthday parties. And I mean, for me, it got to the point where he didn't want me talking on the phone in the house because it bothered him. I couldn't have a text message if I was home, because if I looked at my phone, I was screwing somebody behind his back. At one point, I'm pretty positive that there was a GPS on my car.
Hmm.
Even after our divorce and after he had moved out of the home, there was a Ring doorbell that he put on my door to monitor my comings and goings so that he could text me or email me about, oh, well, you must have a lot of friends lately. You're going out a lot more. Where have you been at this hour? You never were out that late, So that's that just gives you an idea. And this is just daily stuff. It's not like, you know, and I'm not trying to minimize any other type of abuse, but
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people that are in physically abusive domestic situations, and you can see every once in a while there's a black eye, there's a hand mark on them that shouldn't be there. But with this narcissism, it's constantly coming at you. The constant comments, the emails, the text messages. comments under the breath, but then you have this back and forth where you leave the house with them and, oh, they're nice, and then it's your birthday and they buy you a cake and sing you happy birthday and they're smiling, but then there's all this other stuff. I had a crowbar swung at my head, and he tried to kidnap my son in the middle of the night and take him away from me, and these traumatic things that happen. But it's not as easy as people think to just walk away. Some people cannot safely walk away. Some people are not financially capable of walking away. I even know a woman that had to make a choice to save her own life. She had to leave her house in the middle of the night very sneakily without her children. And that's just devastating to think that she had to choose between herself and her children, but she had to do what she needed to do to live. So when people say, couldn't have been that bad, or why do you stay so long? You have hope that they might change. You hope that it might work because they have shown the ability to be decent human beings, and you just hope that they're that way with you. They just choose not to be, unfortunately.
Now, the person you just were talking about, was it physical abuse or narcissistic abuse? Do you remember?
The person who left in the middle of the night
Yes.
and left her children, she was getting all of it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Jeez. Now, do you think, as a someone who's experienced it, I don't want to say expert, but you know what I mean, could you spot someone being narcissistically abused, but they're not telling you? In other words, coworker, somebody you meet, if they got a black eye, it'd be like, oh, something's up, and they lie about it.
Right.
But with this, there's no bruising. So could you tell from a distance, without sitting down and saying anything, if that's happening?
A normal person out in regular society probably cannot do that, because even for me, there are people that have known me 20, 30 years, my whole life, even, that are reading this book now and sending me messages saying, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Because when my son had a t-ball game, I was there with smiles and cupcakes, and we were there as a family. And Christmas, let's all be smiles, because I didn't want anyone to know. Because, oh my goodness, if a narcissist knows that you have told somebody or somebody's onto them, again, when you're the target, there are consequences. You get blamed for everything under the sun, including things that literally have nothing to do with you. So the last thing you want is to let on to anybody. And the other issue is that, yeah, there were people in my life that I'd met along the way that, I'd known forever, that I trusted, that I kind of gave indications to that things weren't good. But, oh, but he's so great. He's so wonderful. And he's so sweet. And he's so funny. And my kids love him. And, same with my stepfather. I still have people say, oh, I ran into him. He's so funny. I would love to have a father like him. Well, it didn't work out so well for me. So, that's the funny thing. Can you spot it? Probably not, because nobody's going to let on that they're being abused. But what I can tell, and I've noticed some other people that, have experienced it, you can sometimes tell if somebody's kind of has a general melancholy or sadness about them, that maybe they've lost themselves in some way, if that makes any sense, or they're not acting like themselves. Because there were people along the way, very few in my life, that would be like, you don't seem yourself, or is everything okay? Oh yeah, everything's fine. I'm just tired. It just,
Right.
You excuse it because nobody can know. But I would just say, if there's something going on in somebody's life and they seem otherwise okay and things seem okay, there's probably something going on, but you're probably not going to get them to admit it.
Now, did your ex ever physically abuse you, or was it all mental? I mean, in a sense, it's physical, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, and I'm finding a lot of people, have been affected in the same way as I have, having physical ailments as a result. Can I say he ever put his hands on me? No, I was never punched. There were a few arm grabs that were too aggressive that I didn't appreciate. There were a few shoves, one against a brick building where I hit my head, but
Mm.
nothing visible. I remember somewhere in the book I said it was like he could he could abuse me and physically affect me without putting his hands on me.
Mm.
And that was the irony of it, especially this lung disease. That's why the name of the book, Gasping for Air, the Stranglehold, because it felt like he was killing me and I could not breathe. I couldn't breathe in so many. I mean, it's symbolic of not being able to breathe physically, emotionally, in every way possible. But no, there was never, I mean, but then again, what do you call physical abuse? There was a crowbar swung at my head. I ducked. Otherwise, I'd probably be dead
Mm.
long ago. There was a gunshot outside my bedroom. I thought he was going to kill me that night. There was a knife brought to my door in the middle of the night, and my son had to intervene. So,
Wow.
did he actually physically assault me? No, but I would put that somewhere in the realm of a physical threat is to me of physical abuse because I was afraid for my life.
Now, is gaslighting and narcissistic abuse the same?
It's not the same. Gaslighting is a manipulation tactic. So, for example, gaslighting is basically making somebody believe that what they think, what they've seen, what they've heard never happened. It's not true. You're delusional. So narcissists like to use gaslighting because again, you can't they don't want to be exposed because if you are onto them and onto the fact that they're a narcissist, then their cover's blown and they can't have that.
Mm.
So, if I challenge like towards the end, I got a little stronger. I finally found my voice again. You know, I don't appreciate that you just said that to me. What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Yes, you did. I just heard you say that to me. You said this, this, and this. You're crazy. I didn't say that. Nobody heard me say that. So it gets to the point when you're being abused. I loved, and it was very rare, but when there were witnesses where I could look at somebody and say, "You just heard that, right?" And I mean, I would almost get excited, like giddy, like, "Thank God somebody else heard it. I'm not nuts. I'm not crazy." I,
Mm.
I mean, it got to the point they want you to think you're crazy because if you're questioning yourself and your own sanity, then it relieves them of the accountability for their actions and behaviors. But you don't have to be a narcissist to gaslight. And my mother is a case in point because my mother married, my stepfather is the king of all narcissists. And that was not the childhood I would have wished on anybody. But my own mother, excused him, enabled him, told me I was just lying to get attention. She was even witness to things that he said and did to me and just would literally act like nothing was happening. She just kept washing dishes, and Mom,
Mm.
I know you just heard that. What are you going to do? Are you going to protect me? Are you going to say something? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow.
The whole town knows what we're talking about because everybody heard him hollering and yelling. Like it's just like that they don't want to, so she would gaslight me because she couldn't acknowledge her husband's narcissistic abuse because then she would suffer consequences
Right, right.
for going against him or being party to exposing him. So, it's almost like playing games. It seems like a game, and that's the problem. Is it emotionally exhausts you to the point where you're physically exhausted, and there's so many victims of abuse that are misdiagnosed with fibromyalgia or adrenal fatigue or all these things, and really it's just your body just gets so exhausted literally of dealing with the emotional and then the physical consequences of all this stress and the constant questioning, engaging moods and assessing the room and feeling the energy. Is today a good day? Is it a bad day? You
Right.
never know, and it can switch real quick.
Now, how does a person, the abuser, become this way? I mean, it sounds so evil. It's like
It
you're not
is,
born
some
that
of
way.
them can be evil. No, you're never, I
I mean,
don't
as a
like to think
child,
anybody is
kids are
born a
pretty
certain
innocent.
way.
Yeah, kids are pretty innocent.
Yes,
And eventually, you grow up, and what is? Ugh,
exactly. So I've done a lot of research, obviously, on the subject, but I'm just going to give my take on everything I've read and heard and my life experiences. You know, basic psychology, they say by the time a child is 6 or 7 years old, they have developed what will be their personality and whatever their sense of morals and right and wrong and all of those things. That's pretty young.
mhm.
So what I have noticed with the narcissists that I have experienced, very closely, is that they kind of come from two different childhoods. One childhood where I can say both my stepfather and my ex came out of, where they were in situations where they were not, how do I put this? They were not, I don't want to say neglected, but they weren't given the attention that they needed, and their, basic securities were not being met, basic needs. Um, I can't, my ex-husband was not abused. Now my stepfather was. He was an orphan, and he was in abusive foster homes. So it comes out of this feeling of not being important to anybody, and feeling worthless and insignificant yourself. So then you grow up needing to make other people feel that way so that you feel powerful, and that gives you that sense of significance that you lacked in your childhood. But I also have experienced another narcissist more recently, a former friend, and her situation, and I see this with a lot of other narcissists, is that they were, their parents just gave them that overinflated ego. We all want to be supportive and encouraging to our kids, but these people that I know, it was just so, out of proportion how important, and how unique their parents made them feel, that they are above everybody else and the rules don't apply to them because they are so much more special than everybody. So they go through their life literally thinking that they are that important and that much better than other people. And you'll see that in their need to have the cars, the status symbols, the clothes, the name brands, and the Rolex watches, and the whole thing. And they are probably almost worse than the ones that I've dealt with, just because they really have no idea that they're just a human being like everybody else, but they have no empathy, and no consideration, no remorse at all for any other human being. And it's sad.
Yes, it is. Wow. So how does one free themselves from this if you realize, hey, this is me, at home? What's the steps? I'm sure it's in the book, but briefly, how do you start that? I mean, there has to be day one, like, I got to do something.
Yeah, if you're in an abusive situation, no matter what kind of abuse you're suffering, I think, you have to do, I think every situation is unique, even though there is, some, commonalities in some of these abuses, but
Hmm.
you have to do most importantly what feels safe, because like I said, I have had so many people reach out to me and they're scared to even reach out, just because they're worried about their safety or their children's safety. But for me, it was a long planning process. I wanted to make sure that my son, above everything, was as unaffected as possible, which to me meant I wanted to give him the stability of remaining in the home that I was raising him in. I wanted to give him the stability of staying in the same school he was going to and having his same friends. I wanted that for him, because it's hard enough when kids have their parents divorce or split up. I just wanted him, especially after all the things he'd witnessed, and he didn't witness everything, thank God. but I just wanted that stability. So for me personally, you know, I decided back in 2005 that was it. And it wasn't until 2020 that we actually got divorced. So for 15 years, I was doing things like, if I had an extra few dollars from tips at work, or, grandma sent me $50 for my birthday. It sounds silly, but I was putting it in savings bonds. I started an annuity in just mine and my son's name. I made sure there was a financial little, money pot just for me and my son that my ex had no idea about and that he could not get access to. And then I had to just kind of wait it out until it was safe. And it's unfortunate that, well, it's actually fortunate in my case that my ex caught on to me pulling away. He kind of felt that the distance I was putting between us in every way possible. I had even moved down to my basement. No more sharing a bed, no more sharing meals at the table. It was just, we were done. That's it. I'm here for my kid. I made it very clear. So one day I came home from work. My son came home from school and he was gone. He had moved out. So I was fortunate in that way, but that was a typical narcissistic move because, of course, he went around telling people that I was abusive to him and that he had to move out because he was being harassed. Mind you, I was 93 pounds. I'm this little girl. What am I going to do? Yeah, I was abusing him. Okay. He said I stole all his money and to pay the mortgage and to pay the lights. And, we weren't, definitely we didn't have a whole lot of money. I mean, at one point he had drained his 401k, depleted all our finances. I mean, completely, to the point where I was denied, a $3 charge at the post office. I had to start going to the food pantry and we were shopping for clothes at Goodwill because he had just drained us financially. So his accusations were ridiculous, but that's what he had to put out to the world, because if I had actually gone ahead and left him, which I was very close to doing, that would have made him look badly. It would have been like, well, why did she leave him? What did he do? So it had to be about what I did. It had to be my fault. And I was fine. I didn't care. But unfortunately, even after the divorce, that's when it got the worst, and when there were death threats and the violence really escalated. So that's the thing about narcissism, is that it's never really over. And even up until a few months ago, there were still emails and texts that I'm the only one and it'll always be me. Never mind that he has somebody else that's been living with him for a year and a half and probably doesn't know about these messages. But it's easier for them to manipulate somebody that they know inside and out than to start over and relearn a new person and take that risk of them discovering who they are. So the cycle goes on.
So how long did it take to write the book, and have you ever written a book before?
No, I actually never wrote a book. The irony of all this is that when I was done in high school, I wanted to go to beauty school, but my stepfather, being a narcissist, that wasn't good enough because I had to make him look good. So I had to go to an actual university and study something. So I went to DePaul University in Chicago and got myself a degree in journalism and psychology, and never used it. I went into real estate. So where this book came from, was actually somewhere around 2018, 2019, about when I was diagnosed. And I was just about done with all the gaslighting and done with this marriage. And I needed to get out. I was actually worried that something might happen to me. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't nuts. So I started keeping a notebook where I documented what was happening, things that were said, just so I could have a constant recollection of what was going on. And if something happened, there would be a record so people would know, who to look at. And it just occurred to me sometime during COVID, I had a little more time on my hands. We were all sheltered in place. And I was reading through my notebook, as I often did, to remind myself of why I needed to get out of there. And it just occurred to me, I thought, this writing thing that I'm good at, maybe I'll put this in a book, because there's so many people like me that thought they were in a unique situation that never spoke out. And after I got sick, I thought, okay, yeah, I don't have black eyes and gunshot wounds or stab wounds, but he has physically affected me for the rest of my life. And there should be some criminal consequence to that. And people need to be aware of this because they're dangerous. And he is walking around at the Walmart and the gas station and everywhere else, passing people that think he's this great guy. And maybe to them he is, but to me, he's dangerous. And thinking about the fact that we still live in the same vicinity scares me. And so I just feel like I had to just take the risk, use my skills, use my experiences to speak up for everybody that's in that situation. And I'm glad I have. I have had many, many people reach out and thank me for, exposing this and creating the awareness for those who are still in the situation and could use a little more help getting out.
So there is an out. It might not be easy, but there is an out for people. Positive note. There is a way to get out.
Absolutely. Yes. I can honestly say there's an out. I, again, it depends on the situation. I know too many people that wish they could get out and they're just not ready, and they just don't feel like they could get out alive. Those are very extreme situations. And some are just so emotionally tied. There's this thing called a trauma bond that you are just your body actually becomes used to that chaos and you don't know what to do without it. Oh, I haven't spoken to him in 3 days. I'm going to call him. I find myself talking to people about that a lot. But yes, I can honestly say I knew when I knew it was time, I knew it was time, and I got out. Things got worse after the divorce, but then they finally settled, and I have, gained weight. I'm definitely healthier. I mean, you could hear the kind of the rasp in my voice. There are days that I'm a little lower on oxygen still, and I still have a breathing machine and an inhaler and an EpiPen and everything, but it's not like I used to be. I can actually, get through days a lot better. My nervous system is a lot calmer. I know I'm safe where I'm at now. I know I'm protected, and I know I'm okay. And I feel that everybody needs to know there is another side to this. It's just, we need to get the criminal justice system on our side, because in the end, when things got violent, I was denied an order of protection, even after a knife and a gun. And when I fought and fought, I was given an order of protection that said he had to stay 10 feet away from me. 10 feet. You can kill somebody from 10 feet away. So we need to get, the police and everybody on board, and our justice system a little more on board with this to help people. Even if you're erring on the side of caution, I'd like to see some advancements in that area.
Now, what about reaching out to, I don't know your situation, but people in general, to family members, brothers and uncles or somebody, and saying, hey, this guy's, I don't know, abusing me, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, I could think I would like, if someone with my daughter, I'd be like furious, I don't know
Right.
if that's an
Yeah.
option or.
And you know what? For some people, it is. For that gal that was able to leave in the middle of the night, unfortunately, leaving her children behind, it was her father and her brother who, basically planned it with her and were there getting her out in the middle of the night. For some people, that's possible. For me, unfortunately, it wasn't.
Okay.
I don't have a relationship with my mother and stepfather. And even though I had tried to kind of tell them what was going on, and even though my mother had witnessed things, I mean, even when I went to court for the order of protection, I asked them if they would please come and testify for me as witness to some of the things that they had seen that were abusive, and they declined.
Wow.
So some of us don't have people that we can go with. Yeah, it's pretty alarming that they could do that to me. But, I would like to think that most people have somebody that they can trust. It's just hard because it goes back to the idea of, well, if it's that bad, how come you're still with them? If it's that bad, how come you're with them 25 years? it is that bad, but people just don't believe us because they see one thing and you're telling them another. And then you have the narcissist telling everybody you're nuts and you're delusional and you can't keep stuff straight. So it's not as easy. And you're honestly terrified that somebody will let on to the narcissist that, oh, she said this, because you just can't risk that. So, but there is another side. There is definitely another side.
Now, where can people get information from you, get the book, etc.? What's the access?
Absolutely. My website's probably the best place to go, danasdiaz.com. It's DANASDIAZ.com. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, but absolutely, I respond to everybody. If you message me, send me an email via my website. You can get the book on Amazon. There's an ebook and a print book. You can just go on the website, click through to buy the book. I have a blog on the website. Anytime I can provide any resources, I try to do that, but definitely social media or the website is the place to find me. And I absolutely want to hear from anybody, comments, questions. If you're in a situation and just need to vent, I am not going to judge or tell you to get out. I am going to make sure that you're safe and that we can communicate it and just be supportive.
So let's step away from the serious subject matter.
All right.
And get to know Dana a little bit. I have a thing I call this or that. It's just a preference thing. I give you two choices. You tell me what your preference is. Okay. Very simple.
Love it.
Doesn't mean you hate the other one. It's just a preference. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Dinner date or movie date?
Dinner date. I love food. Give me a pizza and a pina colada. I'm great.
Well, that might answer the next one, because the next one is pizza or pasta. Although,
pizza by far.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, pizza is my favorite food ever. And we make homemade pizza here at least once a week, but I could do pizza. Like if I was on an island and had to choose one food, the rest of my pizza by far. Love it.
All right. Cat or dog?
Oh, okay.
You have two cats, correct?
I'm gonna go. I do have two cats, but I've been wanting a Great Dane forever, and the love of my life, pet-wise, was a bloodhound. I will say cat though, because what I prefer about a cat is you can leave them. We can go away for a weekend or go on a 4-day trip to the Caribbean, and the cats are fine if you leave them food, water, and a litter box. They have an attitude when you come back because you left them, and they don't like that. But a dog's not so easy. A dog is more emotional and sensitive, and you have to find somewhere to take them, and they have to go out, and it's a little more hands-on. So the cats are a little less maintenance. So in honor of my two cats, Tigger and Kitty, I will say we'll go with cats.
Okay, fair enough. Mountains or beach?
Oh, beach. I do love mountains, though.
Do you live near a beach? I guess not.
I don't.
Not in
but
Illinois.
No. I've been dying to get out of the state for a long time. But yeah, I thank God have family down by Daytona Beach in Florida. Okay. So we get to go put our toes in the sand once in a while.
Nice.
Yeah.
TV or movie?
Probably movie.
Okay. Lobster or steak?
Lobster. Not a steak person.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not into
Ever?
beef.
I mean,
No, I honestly, it doesn't do anything. Some people get excited and it's like a special thing to have steak. And I'd rather have, a tilapia fillet than have a steak.
It's your preference,
I'm not
right?
a beef person, but yeah, lobster, absolutely.
All right. Moonlight or sunshine?
Sunshine. I love the feel of the sun.
All right. Driver or passenger?
I'm going to say driver because I love when my husband drives me around, but he's so heavy on the brakes, it makes me motion sick. So I prefer to drive if I can, but it is nice being a passenger once in a while.
All right. Dress or skirt?
Dress.
Spring or fall?
Fall. Too much rain in the spring.
How's the weather there where you are now?
Oh, it's sunny and warm. It's sunny and warm, so I can't complain today, but you know, in the Midwest, we get every season sometimes in a whole week, so I'm not a fan of the winter or the rain or anything like that.
All right. Music festival or art festival?
Music festival. Love music.
All right. Tom Cruise or Tom Selleck?
I'm going to say Tom Selleck because I'm sorry, Tom Cruise, but not a fan. Sorry.
Okay. It's his preference. This is not,
I grew up in the 80s, so we like Tom Selleck.
Of course, yes. All right, last one. Gold or diamonds?
I'm going to go diamonds on that one. They're
want
just
them
sparkly.
rocks.
Yeah, they're sparkly and pretty. There's nothing wrong with gold, but I like the shine of a diamond.
All right, fair enough. So what does the rest of 2023 look like for Dana?
Oh, goodness. Dana's busy this year. The book was just released earlier this month, and it's doing really well. Been running around. I've been in 3 different states to book signings. I'm still scheduling them. Been on this podcast tour, been doing 2 or 3 podcasts a day, it seems, and still scheduling them straight through August. I just finished writing the second book, which is a prequel to Gasping for Air. It basically discusses being raised by a narcissist. And then I just started writing the third book, which is the final in the trilogy, which deals with the most recent narcissist in my life, which is a former friend who just completely, I didn't see that one coming, but what she's done to me and my husband has just been really unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they can do to you in different ways. So we're going to cover the whole narcissist spectrum. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing now and writing in between and trying to fit a few vacations in. We're going to Punta Cana in a few weeks because I need to put my toes in the sand and have that pina colada. But
enjoy.
It's going to be a busy year. Yeah, we're going to try to have a little fun and have a little of the seriousness and just keep going and meeting people and sharing our story, hearing other people's stories and just trying to, at the risk of sounding like a hippie, just trying to spread the love and awareness. Everybody needs a hug and needs some understanding and validation. And so whatever I can do to help the cause along, got to help people learn to survive in this world.
Thanks again. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And
yes.
I'm sorry it was such a deep subject. It's really hard to make it light and fun, but
no, this is
great. I appreciate you having me on. I know it's a hard subject to even explain sometimes, but hopefully I've shed a little bit of light for somebody out there. But yeah I appreciate being on. It was very easy, very painless.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Be
You
in touch.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.